right, I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Historic Resource Preservation Board, City of Lake Worth Beach, January 10th, 2024. Roll call, please.
Elaine DeRusso.
Here.
Robert Dorenzo.
Here.
Nadine Heights. Here. Ed DeVoe.
Here.
And LeBlanc.
Here.
Quorum.
Thank you. Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Staff, any additions, deletions, reordering, and approvals of agenda?
We do not have any additions, deletions, or reordering.
All righty. Can I get approval of the minutes from last month's meeting, please?
Yes, I can approve those.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Ms. Sherry, swearing in of the staff and applicants, please.
Stand and raise your hand.
You plan to give testimony this evening? Please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear and affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? And so say yes. Thank you.
Any withdrawals or postponements? We did have proof of publication. Any board disclosures?
Nope.
Should I state that I am recusing myself from the second case of this evening? Okay. All right. Let's see. We don't have any unfinished business, do we?
We do not.
Okay, so new business. HRPB project number 23001000140, consideration of certificate of appropriateness for roof replacement located at 611 7th Avenue North. The subject property is a non-contributing resource to the Northeast Lucerne Historic District and is located in the single-family, two-family residential SF-TF-14 zoning district.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. For the record, this is Ian Tarafa, Preservation Planner for the City of Lake Worth Beach. As Mr. Chairman explained, this is the properties at 611 7th Avenue North. Next slide, please. This map shows where the property is located. It's south side of 7th Avenue North, between North K Street and North L Street. Next slide, please. So the property was built in 1929. It is in the wood frame vernacular architectural style. It's a non-contributing structure. But in the 2015-2020 survey, it was recommended to be contributing structure. And since it's from the 1920s, we don't have original blueprints. So by looking at the property file from the 1956, we could see that the roof type is a composition rolling roofing system. And if we go to the next slide, please. And then in 1970s, it was replaced by shingle roofing material, and it is to this day. So next slide, please. So the applicant proposes to replace the existing dimensional asphalt shingles with a standing seam roof. Staff received a COI application for that. Staff disapproved the permit and told them that the appropriate replacement for shingle roof is shingle roof, dimensional asphalt shingle roof. The applicant decided to pursue it by bringing it to the HRPB board. Next slide, please. So according to the Historic Preservation Design Guidelines, roof, it's a major component in defining architectural features. And then if we look at the wood frame vernacular architectural style, we see that originally the materials were either wood shingles, shake, metal shingles, or rolled roofing. And the appropriate replacement for that is dimensional asphalt shingles, but they propose to use, as we explained, standing seam, which is not applicable to the design guidelines, also to the Secretary of the Interior. Next slide, please. So staff recommends denial of the proposal to replace the dimensional asphalt shingles with standing seam. And also, as we mentioned earlier, this is also being proposed to be a contributing resource in the Northeast Historic District. These are the potential motions. Thank you.
I mean, this structure
Yes.
sits on Seventh Avenue North. It is the main,
Yes,
light
it's-
on Federal, light
right.
on Dixon. It's very, you see it. It's
Yes,
right
it's very visible. Yes.
there. Our whole objective is to follow the guidelines. And our city website and guidelines are very specific and very, they're not hard to find. It's right
Yes.
there. You have a wood frame cottage. These are the type of roof materials that are appropriate. You have a mid-century, these are the proper thing. And we seem to go over this a lot because of the fact that, well, my neighbor has, and it's over here and behind me. Granted, our historic districts have only been implemented for what, 20 years?
Yeah.
Yeah,
20 years.
about 20 years, yes.
So we do have a lot of things that have been done prior to.
Yes, sir.
Just like we have the issue with the doors. When you let my neighbor do it, well, yeah, it's probably done on a Sunday, it was done 20 years ago. So, I think our big thing is not creating a precedent all the time. There are certain situations and there's certain objections and certain situations where, okay. But I just can't see, we do get people quite often that go to you that stand in front of us that we want a metal roof.
But there aren't even any reasons identified here on why this would be needed. I don't see anything in the owner is not here, correct?
Yes, the owner is not here. Again, they were supposed to be here last month, but they say they couldn't make it, so we postponed it for today.
And they were notified, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just saying, I know your point is, well, somebody else did it, but that's not even identified, right? There's no reason.
Do you want to press forward with this or do you want to give him another chance to show up?
I got a few questions.
Yes, sir.
Before we. First off, why is it, the house is non-contributing? It looks like an older home out.
It is recommended to be contributing at the time. Maybe it could be that it didn't hit the 50-year-old mark, or maybe they missed it. I don't know. For some reason, it was not designated as contributing, but if the new surveys are adopted, it's going to be contributing structure.
Quite a lot.
Yeah.
Do we know when that might happen?
It depends when the city adopts it.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
would be a city commission, decision.
So my second question, the metal standing seam, I someplace in here where there was a letter from the owner saying that they wanted a roof that was going to last longer or some such thing. But we have listed as an appropriate roofing material, a metal shingled roof. Did you have any conversations with the homeowner that maybe they might look into that?
At the time, we haven't, but the homeowner were experiencing some leakage in the roof, and staff was trying to expedite it to help him get the roofing. So we told them the easiest path is to go with dimensional asphalt shingles, but they refused and decided to just pursue the metal standing seam.
Well, they could have gone with the metal shingle roof. And I haven't looked at the Florida website to see how many types of metal shingle roofs meet our wind load criteria, but I'm assuming that they do. Do we know that?
There's a few, off the top of my head, I think there's like 4 or 5 that we know of that meet.
Well, that's quite a bit.
Yeah,
That-
they are
that's-
expensive than a standing
Yeah.
seam, which.
They're more expensive than a standing seam.
Correct. So
But if somebody wants to go and really do the right thing and have a roof that's going to last 50 years, they can do that.
they could.
Okay.
They have the option.
Yes,
So you're not turning them down because it's metal.
I'm sorry.
You're not turning them down because it's metal.
It's
It's
the,
it's the type of the metal that they're using, a standing seam. If they were going with like a asphalt, like a metal asphalt,
Or
roof,
metal
yeah, metal shingle, sorry, yeah,
Right,
I think they would have been okay.
But in 1929.
Mhm.
Yes.
All it was metal.
Well, it was probably rolled.
It was, yeah, according
Yeah.
to the 1957, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
proper
well,
You know,
drawing.
Right.
so-
Yeah,
yeah.
we looked at it. That was the
So-
earliest evidence.
Sometime,
Well, I don't know if you can,
I mean,
I know what the guidelines are.
Yeah, that's what we're here to follow. We're here to follow the guidelines.
You have the option to table it another month.
I like to
know
table
their
this.
roof is
Yeah.
leaking and we had a storm, but
Yeah.
then,
Oh.
you can table it if you want to hear from them.
I like to table it and hear from them.
You
and-
would have to make that motion. That's up to you.
can I ask one more question first?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I should bring this up, but
Go ahead.
is the roof already installed with the standing
No,
seam
it's not.
metal roof?
No, it's
Because
not
we're
installed.
getting an awful lot of these where people would rather ask for forgiveness than permission, which is regrettable.
Did you say the roof is leaking? I mean, they might not even have
According to,
insurance.
Property owner, yes. It's,
Does he have insurance? Do you know?
not-
Because you can't get insurance if you,
I'm not sure.
That's true.
yeah.
Very true.
And it's a shame that the owner is not here. I mean, I'm okay if you want to move
Push it
it
back.
to another week, next month. You go ahead.
You wanna make a motion? Go
You're
ahead.
the one that asked for it. I'll second.
Just do the number, just regarding, you don't have to do an elaborate, just
All
the
right.
address and the number. HRPB number.
I like to table this year, HRPB project number 23-001-001 for the next board meeting.
That would be the February meeting.
February.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I can second that.
Can you stress that they'd be here next time?
Yes, sir.
Thank
So
you.
we got a first and a second, all those, well, any discussion?
I'm gonna say no on it because I don't know, I'd just rather get it over with.
No, if he wasn't here.
Yeah.
Then give him the
One more chance.
So all those in favor?
Really quick,
hear you.
before you
Aye.
make a vote, our lawyers asked us to put on the record, the next meeting will be February 14th,
Okay.
2024.
No.
Yes.
I can put on the record now, I won't be out of the country, out of the state, not the country.
Oh, my God.
Let's get shit and get back.
So,
Oh,
it'll be up to you guys.
You gonna be here?
I won't be here.
You're gonna be
February
paying?
14th. No, no. Okay, Tennessee.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No,
Okay, passes 4-1. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I have to recuse myself from the meeting. I had a conflict with the next HRPB number 23-015000012 as the property is adjacent to mine.
All right,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
thank you. Do we have a vice chair?
I'm the vice.
Okay, so it goes to her then.
Take the wood.
Y'all have a good evening.
All right.
You too.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank-
So as noted, this is HRPB project number 23-015000012. A request for a variance to allow a 6-foot high fence in the front yard at 603 North Ocean Breeze. The subject property is a contributing resource within the Old Lucerne Historic District and is located in the single-family residential zoning district. Future land use designation is single-family residential.
All right, thank you. So, like our vice chairwoman said, we're here at 603 North Ocean Breeze. So we're at the corner of 6th and North Ocean Breeze here. So a bit of background on this project. So in May, this property was cited by code compliance for installing fencing without permits. A fence permit was submitted in August and then disapproved about 2 weeks later, noting that the fencing in the front yard area exceeded the maximum height allowance in our land development regulations. Staff and the applicants, communicated by phone and email throughout August and September. And then we did get a complete variance submittal in November. This was scheduled for our December meeting. Since that had to get canceled, we are here today for the project. So here is the survey that they've submitted. You can see the red areas are the fencing in question that was installed. So 6-foot fencing on the north and south side and some gates on the east side of the property. So in this, sorry, we've got some photos of it as well, just so you can see a little bit of the area of fencing that we're talking about. So in our code, for single family properties on the front property line and on the side property lines for the first 20 feet of depth, which is, that front building setback, fences or walls can only be 4 feet tall. Here in that front yard area, we've got about 58 linear feet of 6-foot tall fencing. So this blue area marked on the survey, that's the front yard area. So, this fencing over here, that's 6 foot, that's fine. That's past that front 20 feet. Really, we're talking about the 6-foot fencing here. And the gates, we do allow in our code for gates to be a maximum of 2 feet higher than fences. So the 6-foot gates really aren't what's in question either. It's the fencing here and here. So in our variance criteria, I can't recall if we've done a variance since we got all of our new board members here, but we do have to have positive findings for all 4 of the variance criteria in order for the variance to be granted. Staff did not find that it met the criteria. So criterion A is talking about special circumstances that are particular to this building or land and don't generally apply nearby and aren't the result of action of the applicant. So in this case, this is, made of 2 platted lots of record. It's 100 by 135. It's not a particularly unique size. Corner properties are very common, and single family homes throughout the city and in the surrounding neighborhood are all required to comply with these same front yard fence requirements. The requested variance is also the result of unpermitted work. Looking at criterion B, this has had a single family use for over 75 years. So we do not find that strict application of the land development regulations would deprive the owners of reasonable use of the land as a single family home. With C, that it would be the minimum variance possible. We don't find that it's required for the reasonable use of land, as we just talked about. A landscape screen on either side of a 4-foot tall fence would comply with the land development regulations and could give some of that additional privacy that, we know that the applicants are concerned about. And then for criterion D, that it would be in accordance with the spirit and purpose of our land development regulations. The LDRs that were adopted in 2013 included these regulations, on purpose with these certain height regulations. And a lower height limit for front yards in single family and 2-family residences is actually a very common requirement in zoning codes throughout the country. Shorter front yard fencing, in planning is intended to promote neighborliness, afford visibility for vehicles, while still providing some form of security for property owners. So this isn't, a unique concept to just Lake Worth Beach either. This is pretty standard throughout the country.
Annie,
Yes.
can you go back to the C? I
Totally.
Wait, I wanted to see that about the analysis, 4-foot tall fence. What about the landscaping there again? I'm not sure I understand that.
Sure. Yeah. So what we were getting at there is,
You mean a landscape screen? What
Yeah.
that means? It's just plants.
Yeah,
but
Like bush, like something.
so
could
that
grow.
could
Like I
go
did
higher
that.
than 4 feet.
Yeah,
Correct.
that's
Right.
allowed to grow as
You're
high
not- yeah,
as-
you have that,
manageable, Yeah,
Okay.
and there's stuff you can plant that grows
They're
pretty
pretty high,
fast.
yeah. That's for sure.
All right. So yeah, in conclusion, staff did not find that it met the 4 variance criteria. So we do not recommend approval of the proposed variance. I know the applicants or one of the applicants is here tonight and they do have a presentation as well. So let me pull that up for a second. All right.
Annie, can I ask another question? If the purpose is for visual, why is it that you can have landscaping but not fencing?
So that's the purpose of the fencing code. Landscaping is kind of a totally separate thing, we don't regulate the height of your tree in your front yard or something, even though that would obscure visibility. There is, visibility triangles for like the corner here, that we do regulate the height of landscaping, but in general, that's not, regulated in the same way in planning.
So what happened if he grows Instead of 6 foot fence, you go with 8 foot hedge. And he's- He's still in compliance?
So if he had a 4-foot fence with an 8-foot hedge, he would be in compliance. He can't have a 6-foot fence there, no matter what height of hedge he has.
But yeah, you can totally have a 6-foot hedge behind a 4-foot fence. That's a lot.
Or in
But
front of
like you
it.
said, you can't really control the vegetation, like you're not gonna start
No.
telling you can only have a tree so high or that's just the way the rules are done.
Okay,
Beautiful house
Thank-
and property.
thank-
It's gorgeous.
thank you, board members, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you for taking the evening to spare some time with me to consider our petition. So my name is Sean Waldeck. My wife and I have lived at 603 North Ocean Breeze. It used to be North O, not too long ago, for nearly 20 years now. The 4 points that Annie addressed, I tried to address in a quick little presentation for you. So a little bit of background, like I mentioned, we've been a resident of Lake Worth since 2004. Our house is located at the intersection of North Ocean Breeze and 6th Avenue North. And for a little context, 6th Avenue North is one way south. So the fence in question is on the north side of the property line and doesn't interfere with, visibility for traffic. Around our house, we have several short-term rentals, a vacant parking lot, and it's been an area of pretty significant crime in our area of the neighborhood. Next slide, please. So we did a little research with the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, and within a 2-mile radius of our house, there have been 426,000 911 calls related to crime. So just the fence aside, I was astonished at that.
What's the
At
time
that
frame of that?
5 years, the last 5 years.
And is there a comparison on other areas?
No, I guess we have 40,000 residents in
Yeah, but.
In the city.
Unless you're gonna show that this area is proportionally more
Crime ridden.
crime ridden than others, that could just be, and those are 911 calls. That could just be the way it is everywhere without knowing, comparing that to something else. How do we know that's unusual?
I hope not. So, the police officers in my house, in front of my house, they're there on a regular basis. At least monthly, if not every week, for the last 20 years. And that's the next slide. Me and my wife have made literally dozens of those 426,000 calls in a 2-mile radius, for shootings, routine drug dealing on the street. We've had people in our yard, on that side of the house, peering into the window. I have a wife and a young daughter. We have prostitution, shootings, drug overdose. There's a halfway house right next to our house. My house itself has been the victim of a home invasion while I wasn't home, with just my wife and daughter in the house. So somebody actually broke into our house and entered the house while my family was inside. We've also had a robbery that cleaned out our house while we were away on vacation one year.
You have a security system on your house?
We do. So we've had obviously we reported both incidents to the police. The police actually had in one case, one of the perpetrators left his license in a car that he stole from us, and nothing ever happened with it. So there was no prosecution. So the basis of our claim is that the fence was required for security to protect my family, to improve our quality of life at our residence. So as Annie correctly points out, the requirement is for a 4-foot high fence at the property line, 20 feet back from the front of the street. I think we have a little bit of a difference of opinion. If you read the code requirement verbatim, it doesn't say that the fence line that's south of the north property line needs to be 4 feet. But in any event, from a security and a visual perspective, that height of 4 feet with a 6-foot front gate doesn't really look all that good. The fence is well maintained. It provides a little bit additional security so my child can play in the backyard. Most recently, the code enforcement officer demanded that we place the trailer behind that screen, so we did. We have had no objections from our neighbors, and the fence installation does not pose a public safety impact. Next slide, please. So it is pretty much the same view that Annie shared with you. It's just a small segment that was extended back in 2012, 2013 timeframe. Again, it's well maintained and it looks good. Next slide. So this is in my same neighborhood. This fence meets the intent of the land development code. So it's a shorter fence for 20 feet and taller fence. Much less well maintained than our fence. And then a simple walk through our neighborhood shows numerous examples of fence heights that exceed the 4 feet along the front property line. And some of them, like this one, is brand new. And this is in our same neighborhood. And at the risk of going overboard on the number of adjacent properties, all of these properties are in our neighborhood, have fences that exceed 4 feet along the street line. So in closing, the last slide, please. I respectfully request that you approve this variance request to help us improve our personal safety, allow us to enjoy our property a little bit more. We have had no complaints from our neighbors. We feel that we maintain it well and that it doesn't grossly violate the rule. Thank you.
I got a question for you.
Sure.
You have no complaints from your neighbors? All your neighbors on board? Do you have any information that nobody was objecting?
I understand that a couple of our neighbors offered some public feedback. I don't know how that gets.
I think we got some letters.
Okay.
There's two that were supporting it, and one that was not.
Okay.
Oh, I only saw the two supporting.
Yeah. It's,
Oh.
and they want it read to records. So
Go ahead.
you do that. Okay. Right.
Yeah, where's the negative one?
Where they need
It's on this- There's 3 pages.
Yeah,
Yeah, so page 1, page 2, look at page 3.
Here's my board.
I'm on the 3rd page, but this
it's the
is
positive one.
basically supporting the
Yeah.
fence to remain.
Oh.
Oh, it's the first page on mine and the last page on yours. Okay.
Okay.
You're ready. We still have some discussion to do. Did we do that?
I can do public comment at the end if you.
Okay, you can do it at the end. So I have a question on, do you feel that the vegetation would not be suitable? I mean, I know you showed that one picture of that fence that wasn't as well maintained. You know, it had 4 feet in the front and then it had 6 feet on the side, which was allowed.
And there's a lot of vegetation growing there, like you cannot see over that 4 feet at all. Is there a reason why you don't feel that vegetation could cut it?
Well, it's not as safe, obviously, so somebody can slip through the bushes. It does provide a blind, I agree. But then it kind of defeats the point that it's supposed to not obstruct visibility from either the neighbors or traffic. So if, as you discussed, an 8-foot bush in front of a 4-foot fence or a 6-foot fence, what does it matter really?
It's just that is what our city does allow. you know, I mean, we have rules that we have to follow. We do live in a historic district. So were you, and you've been here for 20 years, were you aware of the need for a permit for your fence, 6-foot fence?
No, I wasn't. Yeah.
You've never replaced your fence in 20 years?
Well, like I said, we replaced it in 2012 and 2000. We extended it in 2012 and 2013. So,
But you did those without permits?
Yes.
Okay.
but not understanding that one was required to extend your
Mhm.
existing fence.
Yeah, I mean, I know as Bob mentioned, we get this a lot. We get people saying, but others have this. And, you know, I mean, I'm sure you guys could look into all those, but I know that's not the purpose of this meeting. And some of those might be legitimately allowed. I know that when you have a corner unit, you can have a 6-foot in a certain area as long as you have some plants in front of it, right? We had that issue before.
Some of those, it did appear that some of those might be corner properties where, you know, we've got, let me go back to this one here. So we've got the front yard area, but then along the side property line that also abuts a street, you are allowed to have a 6-foot that's set back 30 inches with a landscape screen.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So there are some, especially corner units, that you have to realize that in some, you know, on one corner it is allowed. But even so, we unfortunately get this a lot, and our job is to just look at your case on its own. And there are 4 issues that we need to, for every single issue, determine that, you know, is this preventing you from using your home? I mean, I know the safety factor is a concern, but that would mean that everyone in that 2-mile radius should be allowed to have a 6-foot fence all around their property. So it's, you know, I can let others ask questions.
Sure. When I look at the plan and I'm seeing that your fence here, I don't know, is north this way on your plan? I think so. And I'm seeing the fence that we're discussing is kind of in the northeast corner
Yes.
with a gate on the front. Is there a gate in the front and a gate in the
Yes.
back?
No, that there was an existing gate and fence, the green line. On the
Green line, yeah.
And then we simply just moved it to the street. Or to the property line.
Oh, so where that green line is, there's no longer a fence there?
Correct.
Oh, okay. Because the way that looks with that rectangle, I mean, it looked like you were just trying to shield a, you know, RV or something. I couldn't really understand.
Well, we have a trailer parked there now.
Okay.
But it was always intended just to block off the yard so our daughter could play.
Now, do you have a fence all along the east side on the
Yes.
all along the east property line?
Yes, sir.
There is a fence,
Yes, sir.
That's 6 foot.
but I don't see it on this plan. But it's there.
I
It's,
think he's
it's-
talking about the front property line here, not on the
Oh, on the
Neighbor
front
property.
property line,
Yeah.
no. So that front corner is just hedges that we started growing.
okay.
So is that going to be a safety issue?
Sure. But It's a pretty bad area, to be honest. So,
I mean, you have an area that's not fenced.
yes, but my child plays in the fenced area. She doesn't play in front because there's bad people there.
How old's your child?
She is now 15.
Hmm.
So when we did it, she was 5 or 6.
So she's probably,
Not really playing out there much anymore if she's 15. I mean,
She's just hanging out.
yeah, okay. Well,
Yes, but at the time, she was a little child and we wanted to keep her.
so this 6-foot fence went up in March, right? Before that, you didn't have a 6-foot fence? This went, or it was just code cited in March?
Correct. Code cited.
In March, but it was up before that.
10 years. before
Okay,
code cited.
okay.
Yes.
Oh, wait a minute. So you just replaced the same size fence,
Yes,
except you moved it to the street?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it was back where it was allowed to be.
oh, right,
before.
okay.
Right, it was back where the green is
Green
and you
is.
moved it to the other side. And that was done around
10
March.
years.
Oh, that was done 10 years ago.
Yes.
Okay, okay,
And it wasn't busted until March.
okay.
Because they probably just,
It was hiding.
it was replaced again, and
Nope.
so that's a 10-year-old fence.
Yes, ma'am. It's very well maintained.
I have to say that I have difficulty with, some people are getting cited and some people aren't getting cited. It's just, it's very. I mean,
Selective.
those fences weren't, it's not like you said before, it was 20 years ago. Now the code is up there, and so we can't go back and have people do something for 20 years ago, but I bet a lot of those are not from 20 years ago. So I'm uncomfortable with enforcing one and not enforcing everybody else's. I don't know how we justify that.
You're not here for code enforcement. You're here for a request for a variance for the height of the fence in the front yard.
But
Regardless
whole
of how long
separate
it's been
issue.
there,
Right.
regardless of the
understand
code
that. Yeah,
violation.
well, I think we understand that. But,
So you have to look at this individual
Case.
situation. Is there a reason? Yeah.
Yeah.
There may well be next month 2 others. We don't know what's on the agenda. We don't know what's been cited. I mean, code is I believe they're getting better at identifying things. And I mean, we don't know, right? So our job is to look at this particular situation and look at these 4 points. And we've had this come up with roofs. We've had this come up with doors. Unfortunately, it comes up occasionally.
and you want to entertain the idea of putting in some vegetation and going. If
Well,
And that was-
if I'm forced to, I guess, or if I have.
well, we
to
should have to
do it.
force you. I mean,
If I have
you-
to, I mean,
volunteer
what they'd have
save
to
us
do is
time.
cut the fence, right?
Right.
So I have to take the effort. Cut the
What's the minimum?
fence.
4 feet, 1.5?
And and is it the strict interpretation of the code requirement? To me, it's just the property line on the north side and then the street side.
Well, I
It
can't tell
doesn't
you
it
what to
doesn't say
do,
an
but,
intermediate
right.
fence.
But we are here
Mhm.
to take care of what's in front of us now.
Sure.
Unfortunately, Lakewood is a mess. You won't be the first. You're probably the first, but you won't be the last. I would like for you to consider what your options are. If you want to come back, you come back if you want. And
Come back for what purpose?
Yeah, I think we should make a decision on this today. I don't think there's anything that's going to change if he comes back next month. I mean, the decision is whether you spend the extra money on changing that fence. I know it's an additional expense, but it's not like you're replacing a roof, right? So I think you can have the same degree of privacy. I think, with your child being 15, I don't think that's like you have an 8 or 9-year-old running around that might, plus you would probably supervise an 8 or 9-year-old in the front yard anyways. I mean, I know we have crime everywhere. I just,
Let me ask a question, Annie.
To comply with this 6-foot fence? Move it back 20 feet.
Yeah, if they moved it back out of the front area, they could have
How far back?
20 feet.
20 feet.
What is the controversy that he was mentioning about the north side versus or difference of opinion?
They disagree with the code that they can't have a 6-foot fence here just because it's not a direct property line. Anywhere in this area, just like if you wanted to put a fence, a couple feet in versus on the property line, it's 4 feet in the whole area.
Unfortunately, that's not what it says if you read it.
Our code is a little strange. If you can have a 6-foot high fence on a street side of your property, if that's not officially considered the front. Okay, so if you live on a corner,
Right.
and by all rights, it's equally, am I correct me if I'm wrong, but by all rights, like you're on the corner, your front, you can only have a 4-foot high fence. But
Mhm.
on the side,
Mhm.
even if this is a street side,
Mhm.
you can have a 6 foot high fence, but not within the setback. So you have to go
Right.
back this front
Right.
setback distance, and then you can have a 6 foot high fence. And you know, by all rights, that 6 foot high fence on the street side, even though it's allowed in this case, is equally as offensive as
Right.
having a 6 foot high fence in the
Right.
front, but that's just the way our code is.
Yeah, so the frontage is determined by the narrow side of the lot that is the narrowest side of the lot that's adjacent to a street. So that's how the front gets determined. In this case, it's 100 by 135. So this 100-foot side of the lot, which is also the side where the front door is, I believe, is the front of the lot for zoning purposes.
I mean, a lot of towns don't differentiate that
And
way.
here
They
it's
say
3
if it's on the street, it has to be
Right.
4 feet.
Right.
And if it's,
Yes, for 4
Right.
feet.
but
No, it can be 4 feet in this front yard.
But even if you allowed the 6 foot there, that's not gonna solve the whole problem. Right?
It's gonna not look very nice.
Right.
Yes.
Do we want to read the public comments now, Sherry, or we can still discuss after if anyone wants to?
The first excuse me, the first letter comes from Elisa Perez. And her address is 511 Lucerne Avenue. And she says, while she does not live in the neighborhood, they own, and her husband and she own a property in Parrot Cove. As they've walked by and noticed this fence for many years and wonder why it was approved since it does not comply with the city's fence hedge rule, although the rule is only sporadically enforced. Recently, I walked by and saw the variance posting and I wrote to note that I am not in favor of this odd fence which fronts North Ocean Breeze. It looks out of place and detracts from the community. Additionally, while the homeowner noted crime and safety as the reason for the high fence, I noticed that they were using it to screen a larger utility trailer. Okay, and the next letter is from Alex Casella, 531 North Ocean Breeze. Dear Historic Board, regarding my neighbor's fence that is on the agenda for December, I feel this fence is fine and causes no one an issue. The fence has been there for years and looks fine. This city is a little odd when it comes to code violations on people for things that make no sense and no reason. First off, we have broken sidewalks, broken curbs, potholes, blind spots at intersections in the neighborhood. We should be able to find the city. Fix your own mess before citing others. Let them leave the fence in place. It bothers only an obnoxious code inspector. Dear Historical Board, I'm ready to express my full support in regards to keeping the existing fence at 603 North Ocean Breeze. The fence is directly across from my property on 604 North Ocean Breeze. I have never found it to be out of place or a burden to the neighborhood in any way. On the contrary, the Waldecks have beautifully maintained their property since I moved to the neighborhood in 2017. Furthermore, as the board is surely aware, the property is on a corner and has 2 street frontages. I would be concerned that shortening the existing fence could negatively affect the safety and privacy of the homeowners, leaving the backyard exposed to the street. Thank you for your time and consideration. Barbara Swift, 604 North Ocean Breeze. That's it.
Okay, I just want to say that while those are, reasonable comments, we're just not here to judge whether it, is looking offensive or not. We're here to judge a reason for the variance to go against the criteria. And I just don't see there being anything that meets any of the A, B, C, D criteria that is a reason. If anyone else can find one.
No. Again, I still keep getting stuck with, I guess we don't need to be here if the reason is, but everybody else is doing it.
Exactly. Right. Then what is the purpose of this board?
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
well, then if we're gonna let everybody do it, then why do we have a code that says we
Right.
can't do it?
Right. So
And
we just, to me, it shows up a serious issue with code enforcement.
Yeah, and that's something that the public can table at commission meetings or speak to the appropriate department. That's just not us, but you can certainly, as a homeowner, voice your concerns over code compliance.
Like opinions on code.
Yeah, I mean, everybody,
Like
you know,
opinions on code.
but that's
What
not,
we need- What we need here, the total overall.
yeah, but that's not why we're here.
Not right here, but you know, we won't have these cases, and we go back and have workshops and
Mhm.
find out what the community needs. It's time to go back and have workshops and come and, what's grandfathered in is grandfathered in, and what's not. I mean, I've been here for over 63 years, and I'm so fed up with all. They go on with it. It just, we need to have a workshop. We need to get our city in order. And we won't have these issues.
Well, the residents got to all speak up and demand that. There's power in numbers.
It just frustrating sometimes, and I feel bad for the homeowners. I feel bad for the city because we haven't got our house in order. I'm gonna leave it like that for right now.
So is anyone, any more questions from anyone? If I'm, the acting chair, does that mean I don't vote? How does that work again?
You vote, but I don't believe.
I'm
make
a
the motion.
tiebreaker, but I cannot make a motion. That's the only thing I can. Okay. All right. So I cannot make a motion. Does anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion. I move to disapprove HRPB project number 23-015-00012 for a variance to show approximately 58 linear feet of 6-foot tall fencing in the front yard at 603 North Ocean Breeze. The application does not meet the variance criteria based on the data and analysis in the staff report.
Do we have anyone seconding that?
Second.
All right. That's it. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Nays?
I sustain.
Yeah.
I sustain.
I said aye. You said aye. You said nay.
You can say nay. It's passive.
I mean, it's.
I want, for the record, I'm gonna say aye.
Mhm.
Aye.
Unanimous.
I made a motion.
Four.
All right. Now I can do it. All right. I'm sorry,
I'm sorry.
but
I'm sorry.
it's tough. It's
I
tough.
feel your pain.
Yeah, we hope so too.
All right.
What does it take? What does it take to have a workshop and revisit some of these issues? I remember when Frank Palin got this board started. And somehow he resigned. I mean, I'm not ready to even resign. He had some issues, but then someone else took over. And we sort of got things in place, sort of feel right, but it's not all right. You know what I mean? And we need to have a workshop with the public participation, especially those in the historical board. And some of this stuff need to be reworked.
When you say a workshop, are you thinking about like just code enforcement in general?
No, I'm gonna tell you this.
What
It's
is,
easy to bang on code enforcement. It's easy to put down code. Code enforcement is not the issue. It's our policies the issue. This is where the problem lies.
You mean the laws of
Lord,
the,
because let me tell
they're
you,
also often dictated by the state and
me
the
tell you a
city,
story.
right?
let me tell you a story. When I was a little boy, my parents were from the Bahamas and hardworking people. When I was a little boy, my mother used to work. Some of you people don't remember because you're not as old as I am, but there was a famous restaurant which was on Second Avenue, which is now Compass. But they were over where the Charlie Crab was. And my mother would make this kind of thing for them. And they said that was she worked there till 10 o'clock at night. And my father would put us in the car and drive us down A1A through Stone Curve. And I remember those same mansions that was built there back in the 20s. fast moving. I went by riding my son, because my son came down from Philly the other day, and we went down Fifth Avenue. And I rode by those mansions. And I looked at those same buildings that have been sitting there for over 60 years. And I thought to myself, what if we would tell them what windows and doors to put on their building? What would those commissioners be? They wouldn't be a commissioner. Be voted out.
Is that a historic district?
They are on the state register. Look at those windows and doors. State of the art. Impact glass. Do you think you tell those people in Palm Beach what you pick and choose for them? Not one day you pick and choose for them. Why do we say could do this to the poor people? We pick and choose for them. It's not right. We need to have a workshop for the historical district, have a code workshop, have a buildings workshop, get our city in order so we can grow. People don't want to come in with like we have problems. Knowing
So
that.
what would be, maybe if some of you can recommend to him, who could facilitate that? What would be something, you know?
You're right. You're on the right path. The guy who wrote this, I bet he don't even live in this town. I'm going to bet you who finished this here historical ordinance. I bet you don't even live in our town. I bet you $100 to one. That's not fair. What should be fair is hearing from the citizens of this town, having their input, implementing it, moving forward. Now we are a structural city. We know what we're supposed to do. And what's grandfathered in at the time is grandfathered in. But if your house be sold, you don't have that grandfather anymore. You lose that grandfather. Just like Delray Beach. If your house is bought, you lose your grandfather status. You got to come up the code. Just like Boynton Beach. If you hook up to my water, water, you annex in. You come into my town because you got part of my utility. You have no choice but to come on in. That's another thing. I've been in this town for over 67 years, 4 years in the Bahamas, and I'm gonna tell you something. I have never seen, and I've been in and out of municipalities. I've never seen anything like this. We got to get our act together.
Well, I'm gonna let Annie go into further detail, but I want to make sure that you guys all know that, you know, based on, and you all have seen this information in the training that Annie and Aaron did, you know, when you first took office, is that the historic districts are set out in accordance with the state rules.
That's right.
And the state has put forward, you know, different guidelines and whatnot for historic preservation.
Yes.
And there are 3 levels, I know, but I don't
But you
remember what they are.
don't forget the
I don't know
important part.
anything.
Don't forget the important part. The city has leeway.
The city does have leeway.
Okay,
but The
don't
city
throw that
wants,
in there.
the city has applied to be a certified local government through the state historic district or historic
yeah,
office.
yep.
And so there are certain requirements that the city has to meet. The city's historical guidelines are in compliance with the state's guidelines as well. And we do regulate all the historic properties within the city in the same way with the same regulations for all the different components. And so, and all
Yeah,
that
and those
easy-
design guidelines had, you know, extensive workshops prior to their, you know, final form that they took when they were approved and
How long
adopted
ago
in
that been?
2018.
How long ago it been? How long ago that been?
That was 2018.
And how long is that?
That was 6 years now.
6 years.
Mm, yeah.
Okay, let's. How many people are moving to the city? How many people moved out? How many buildings have been sold? Isn't it that every 5 years we should have a workshop?
How
Make it
often
come-
are you supposed to review your guidelines and codes?
I'd have to look back at the ordinance to see what our timelines for
There
reviewing
is
those are.
definitely a timeline for review, and we'll make sure that when
Yeah, I'm sure you won't miss that.
that we
That's-
comply with
that's a
that.
great deal,
That
right?
is a big deal. And not to, I think we are all hear what you're saying, and it is important for municipalities and other local governments to update their rules and regulations and make sure that they're staying updated with what the needs of the area are, and as well as keeping all those historical issues. And that's the issue with with this board and with these districts, with these properties, is that these are the historic properties. So when it comes to historic properties, it almost really doesn't matter what's happening in the rest of the city because you're trying to preserve the historic
Correct.
nature.
Right.
And so while the whole world may be going to 6-foot fences in the front yard or 10-foot fences in the front yard, if it is traditional and historic to have a 4-foot fence in the front yard, you're going to have a 4-foot fence in the front yard in the historic.
We're here to preserve the structural integrity of this, of the historical district, right? Now,
It's not just the structural.
integrity.
It's-
How you define that?
Well, there's the structure itself and there's the feel of the neighborhood. Because that's a big part of the historic districts and why you want the windows and doors and the front facade to be the same and the front fences to be the same as so the feel of the neighborhood has that historic feel.
You don't think you infringe when you go that far? We're discussing somebody else in here. You don't think you were infringing on First Amendment?
No.
You choose to live in a historic district. You can move. If you're
No,
not
no,
happy
well,
with things.
but you know what, you don't,
Right.
yeah, but you don't want, but I understood that guy comment when he was walking out the door. You don't think, so you're going to decide what structures, doors, windows, landscape, what they should have in their yard? Is that our job?
Yes.
Really?
That's why we're on this board.
The Historic Preservation Board, that is exactly your job.
Yeah.
Over your
My
But-
my concern though would be too that, and I like living in a historic district, you know, I just had to tear my harbor down today. I like living in a historic district, but my concern is that can people vote not to be in vote for it not to be a historic district? Or, I
I
mean.
mean, the whole city could decide to
Yeah,
not be historic.
Or that
I don't know.
section, like in College Park, decide, you know, this is too onerous.
I don't know. That's a good question.
And that's
Gonna be heavy
concerning because
direction.
I want it, you kind of need the balance of we can get people on board to want to do this, even though it's might mean you don't get to do what you want to do versus just get rid of the whole thing. 'Cause for instance, like, I mean, College Park is half historic and half not. And it's the half not that's closest to the water, the bigger lots, the bigger houses. So for some reason, whenever they voted, if that's how it happens, I don't know how they get to be historic or not. They chose not to go that route. And the other half didn't. So I don't know how that happens.
So
I'm not saying we shouldn't have the historic district. I'm saying you're right. We have to have some kind of balance.
I think if we have a
Moving
historic
forward,
district,
yeah.
we need to follow the rules for the historic district.
Yeah, but
It can't be everybody do whatever they want.
right. But we need to bring everything up to modern day standards and codes, and rather than just having
I
this
think
and
it
that.
starts with fairness. I think the biggest issue is when somebody says, well, they've had their
Right.
fence for 10 years. Why are you picking on me?
Right.
Right? That to me is the biggest issue.
Or I've had it
I
for
don't
10
know
years
if
and
it's a
nobody
national
noticed.
Issue with code, or they can't get to everybody. I think that's a subject that you can take up with, perhaps you can ask Betty, what would be the best way to set up a public meeting with code and ask these questions on, you know, how can it be more fair? But, you just.
And there's no grandfather's clause.
You're not grandfathered in with historic.
Well, I guess, I mean, if something was built that conformed with the code when it was built,
Mhm.
then, and it doesn't matter what, building code, anything, you can't come later and say, oh, you got to change that.
Should
The only people who can do that, I think, is the fire department can
It's
do
just
that,
we voted
but other
with-
people can't do that.
With the Gulfstream Hotel, like the Gulfstream Hotel was originally built to be a certain height. And now they wanted to build another building beside it at the same height, and they couldn't because now our rule is different, right? So we, as a community, voted to allow them to build it at the same height. So it's the same thing, I guess,
That's
right?
right.
I mean, if you.
Right,
it's
right. The old
something-
building,
Right,
even though it doesn't comply with today's code,
right.
it's already there. And that's a question because that building was vacant for a long time. So I'm not really sure how we, that
But
becomes a
10
gray
years
area, but.
ago, I'm sure the rule was the same. I mean, was the rule the same 10 years ago, right? So 10 years ago, when whoever, he put
They-
that
I think
fence
the-
up, it was wrong then. And unfortunately, it's been cited now and it's wrong still.
Yeah, well, they did it. Yeah, it was already
Right? So I
against the
just believe
rules.
that someone
Mhm.
living here 20 years wouldn't know that you need a permit for a fence. It could be, true.
Well, if you put them all up before and nobody ever
guess,
said
yeah.
anything.
I don't know. I mean, no, people are just not patient. I mean, it took me like 2 months the first time I built a fence to get a permit for my fence. So, people go, oh, what the heck? I'm
I
just gonna
know,
do it.
I know. I think the fairness issue is the biggest thing.
Yeah,
You don't
for
want
sure.
someone feeling like they're being picked on just for whatever reason.
So we're gonna check in and see when is the next refresher.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Are we officially over or what is my duty?
You have to
now?
have that thing.
We do have
Yeah.
one department report real super fast. So our only department report is that we do have a new assistant director. So you all knew Erin. She went down to Boca. Our new assistant director is Scott Rodriguez here in the
Oh,
picture.
okay.
Uh,
Well, that's it.
How long
I'm
you
glad
been here?
we're promoting from within. That's good policy.
So you worked with the city over 2 years?
Yes, I was a principal planner for planning and zoning, and now I'm working with historic and planning and zoning.
Welcome.
Good. Does that mean there's a vacant position in his old
Yes.
position?
Yes.
Okay.
We're looking to fill a couple spots where,
Several planners down again.
yes, we
Oh,
are.
my God.
I was gonna send an email to just, people in my office and see if anybody knows anybody, because you would think that
We have a problem.
there would be a contact.
Houston, we have a
somewhere.
problem.
They left again.
Oh, no.
He's not coming back again this time.
Oh, no.
What?
Good.
yeah, he went up to Palm Beach.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Oh,
Around these planners.
I know.
Palm Beach.
So he's very excited. He'll get to do lots of design review there.
Yeah.
Oh, well, they need them. They need them in Palm Beach. We do a lot of work in Palm Beach and they need good people. So
The train-
maybe more than we do.
All right, so that was all that staff had for department reports. We don't have any planning issues. And it does not look like we have any members of the public here for public comment. So
So we are officially over. Do I need to say
Hit the
anything?
hammer.
That's it.
Hit the hammer, hit the hammer,
Bang
hit the
it out.
Adjourned.